talk about with you guys today, and then we'll do a little, jump in, ask you questions, whatever. If you need to go to another session, I understand. Come back anytime. And I'll be here most of the day, so we can talk personally if you want to. But I want to give you time for any questions or comments you might have. The type of presentation I am doing here today, I do career counseling, by the way, for people in the arts predominantly, people in the creative fields, writers, dancers, musicians, songwriters, and so forth, because I have found that, I would say more before than now, people in the arts were not as understood, and then they're, excuse me, matriculating through a career path. They didn't have the support of their families so much. It's much better now. I must tell you, we're proud of all of us as a culture. We finally got it, as they have in Europe and Asia and some of the other fabulous places that our artists are our leaders in many, many ways, for all kinds of reasons that we want the musicians and so forth around with us to lead us emotionally, spiritually, and so forth. So you already know that, or you wouldn't be in here. So this particular session is career path patterns. And like I say, I do workshops for people who are not sure which path they're on, they're not sure which one they want to be in, and they know they need a change. Something inside them is telling them to look at it one way or the other, either a transition or to reconfirm that they're on the right one for themselves, at least at this time in their lives. Yes?
Can you clarify, please?
Absolutely.
Your email address. Goosing Your Muse is supposed to be underlined?
Oh, no, I just
Oh,
did
okay.
that so that you could see it was separate words, because I'm not, So yeah, Goosing Your Muse is also my website and blog. And I put on that blog, by the way, less about me and more about articles I am finding and people are sending me about the creative process and about creativity. There are, if you dig into the site a little bit, there are creativity exercises. And I can give you resources from here till the cows come home. Okay, so books, websites. On that site, if you go in and look for the book resources on that website, you will go to what will come out if you print it to like 4 pages of books that I love and have used. Now it's harder than ever. I'm sure you all know this. There are brain studies. I'm into brain waves and then how we are affected neurologically by what we do. So some of it talk about is psychology, some of it is neurology, some a little everything, and then just plain all more sense because we've all had some experiences, and I draw from you. Okay, so some of what I'm teaching is what you've told me or someone that's been in one of the classes. Okay, so I use it. Anyway, I have discovered that with the help of others, I should tell you a little of my background, by the way. I came up through the music business, but I say business loudly. I am not a musician, I'm not a songwriter. I am a big fan of them. But on the business end, I started out in radio. I was on the air for a while. I was the first full-time female DJ in Atlanta, Georgia. I didn't know that when I got the job, but it was a really cool job to have during that time period. Great rock and roll. And from there, went into music publishing at a record company. And so learning there to deal with songwriters who absolutely had no one to go play their songs for and talk to when they were in process. They were at the very beginning sometimes of what they were doing, and they were scared to death to show, their work to someone and say, what do you think thus far? Because so many of us are very critical, obviously. Say, it's not even formed yet. And I had come from radio where everything was already finished when I heard it. So it was hard for me to go back to the beginning and watch that process. It was a good lesson for me. So from music publishing, I got into copywriting and went back to college, by the way, to study copyright law because I wanted to know how creative people could protect themselves and make a living at what they do. That was part of that idea. So always kind of like the person behind the scenes. If you are the ones out there in front, I really admire you with all my heart because I can't do that. I'll see you do it and I'll support you, but I want to be back here and egging you on, okay, to whatever you need, and I'll find the resources for you. And that's what I was doing in copywriting and working with creative people all the way through. So that's where the background is. The career paths that I've learned about, I find 4 of them. Okay? Now, there are probably many more, and there are parts of one that I think overlap to the others, and you'll find that when I'm talking about it for your own pattern. So think about the jobs that you have done, even if you started as a babysitter or mowing lawns or shoveling snow or whatever it was as a kid that you might have started with. And then to today, just think about those jobs. How many of you have the same job you had when you first started, like out of school? Look at that, not so lovely. Okay, so now see, in our parents' grandparents' day, they would have had all the hands up, or a lot of them, because people stay in the same position. So you know about the mobility that we're going through in our culture and have always, I think. So the one, however, that we were conditioned to respect and admire in this culture is what I call stair step, or some people call it the corporate ladder. And if you're taking notes, I love it if you draw and doodle on your notes, because I think little visual cues are real good for you. So there's my stair step, my ladder, my corporate ladder. This started when you were in the 1st grade or whatever, where it was a thing that if you did well, you went to the next grade. You did well, you went to the next grade, right? They promoted you all the time. It's a natural thing. God forbid somebody gets held back a year. That was considered a stigma for life after a while. And I don't know that they do that so much anymore. How many of you know about that? Do you know? Do they still hold kids back?
Sometimes.
They do sometimes, okay.
If they get bad enough grades.
If they what?
Get bad enough grades.
Okay, if they get bad enough grades. So that means they might not be ready for that particular line in that school. And maybe they have other issues going on and they need to look at that differently. But this was what we were brought up with. And those of you who have experience in the military, am I right? Same thing. Okay? If you do well, you get promoted to the next level. So we're all indoctrinated this way. However, if you're in the arts and you have a hit book or a hit album or whatever, 1 year, it doesn't always mean that you're going to get to do this, am I right? And so we're frustrated, totally, because what happens is people don't get the reward they expected. They set out, and this is a very goal-oriented line of the path. It's definitely motivated by goals that sometimes you've set up yourself. I want to be a VP of this company when I'm 35. I want to own a Porsche. I want to whatever. These are goal-oriented things, and they're extrinsic. They're outside of you. I want a Grammy. I want to win the Olympics, gold medal, whatever. So that's how that one starts, and we all understand that. And we put a lot of value into that model. But there are 3 others that we've discovered. One is, you can make it like a little megaphone if you want to. It looks like this. I'm not the best artist. I did work at Disney for a while with graphic artists, but I didn't learn how to draw there, obviously. So here's my megaphone, and this is what we call steady state. A steady state path, for example, career path, is where we find our craftspeople, people who are most interested in their personal best. Okay? This is very important to them. So if they're going to be a cabinet maker, then what they want to do is make the best cabinets they can for that client, and this is craftspeople. They're actually in there doing the carpentry themselves. You'll tell me if I misspell something, won't you? Will you tell me if I make a typo? If I make a typo? Okay. Steady state people are Nureyev, Baryshnikov. Tell me who they are. The dancers who start at the early part of their life. That's why this little design is here. And they do this all life long, getting better and better and better. Okay? That's their goal, and they are totally motivated by this. This is their thing. Whether I run faster in the Olympics faster than you do is really not so much an interest to me. I want to see if I can go faster than I did last week. Otherwise, it won't matter if I run faster than you. I've got to get better and better. And that's how those people are propelled. So steady state is a very interesting thing. These are people who usually know early in life what they want to do, and they will surround themselves with it. They're not interested in changing tracks in their career. That's not, they may work a day job, they may do, but this is something that they're doing in their off time. And you probably know people like this if you're not already one of those yourself. So again, you can have some goals and you can have a little of both, but generally these people are very single-minded. I have a brother who's an opera singer, and this is how he is. And he started way long ago when he was young, learning musicals, musical theater, doing summer stock in New York and so forth, getting in front of audiences, and taking music lessons since I can remember. He's an older brother, and that's all I remember, is he took either piano or voice or whatever, and he's been doing it his whole life, and it's amazing. He's making a living in Europe right now, being an opera singer, but he never deviated, could never get him off that path. Okay, next one, very popular. This is called a spiral model, okay? So do your spiral side to side, because up and down means that it implies there's visually it implies that you're getting better and better or whatever. It's not necessarily true in this particular model. This model is where you have a job doing something, and you, for whatever reason, got laid off, or you decided somebody maybe called you, whatever, and they got you over to this job. A whole different place, whole different company, doing different things maybe, doing similar things. And here's another job and another job. So these are different, even in the same company, if you're going from department to department, okay? And I don't mean necessarily going up, because that's that one, all right? But just going to work in different areas. I was at a record company. I worked in music publishing with copyright and so forth, but they also pulled me into promotion, where I was calling radio stations since I had worked in radio, and would ask me about which records they might put on the radio. So I was working but it was all in the music business. And that's the key to spiral. There's something that you like or that is drawing you that has little points that are in common from job to job. And this one is a very intriguing model for that reason. It is event-driven. That means somebody calls you and says, hey, I heard you were really good at computer stuff, and I've got this issue with my computer. I wonder if you could take a look at it. You know, that's where this starts. So it is event-driven, and you kind of wait for it. You don't go look for it. It comes to you, okay? These things happen with people who, let's say that you do a concert here in this church, singing, and someone says, you know, we need someone to come help us with our choir. And since you're obviously really good in the music thing, do you know someone or could you do it? That becomes another loop, that you're now a choir director. You hadn't planned on it, you didn't apply for it. It came to you because someone heard you here or heard about you. And that's what propelled it forward. So this is a very interesting model to me. Again, there was someone that came to me, I don't know, about a year ago, and a young guy, and he said, my family's giving me trouble because they say I can't hold a job. And I said, you can't hold a job? What have you been doing? He said, well, for a while I was a delivery guy for the local nursery over here, plants and stuff. And then I left that job because I got a better offer over here delivering pizza or whatever. And then over there, someone said UPS needed a driver, so I quit and went over to that. And my family thinks I can't hold a job because I keep changing companies. And I said, but you're driving a truck. You're still out there. You're out working alone, working outdoors. You have your schedule. You're very responsible, independently. You can do that. That's where it's all, even though these companies are all different. And it was obvious to me, but he didn't see it, and certainly his family didn't, so they gave him a really hard time about it. So that would be a spiral model. Are these pretty clear? Pretty easy to, okay. Anybody recognize themselves? Yeah, okay. Last one, and again, you're a little of all of them, we all are, but there's going to be one that sings out to you. The last model, let me see if I can do it like this. Oh, you can do it however you want. Little champagne bubbles. And this one is episodic. This model is driven by the project. So project driven. And what that means is they call you and say, hey, we've got a 3-month tour. We're taking the band to Europe. Can you come? That's a job. So each one of these little bubbles, and I'm sorry they look a little funny, but anyway, these are complete projects. They have a beginning and an end. Very interesting. These are either books, they're CDs, I mean by that, albums. They might be songs, each one a separate song that you're working on. But they have a beginning and an end. Once you're done with it, paintings. There's a guy in Vancouver who told me he has one painting that he keeps working on all the time. It's never done, but he finishes the other ones. And that's a very important thing because, well, let me go back to, I'm jumping ahead for a second. These are complete projects, beginning and end. There's a wrap party, it's done. You turn it over to the buyer, whatever. If you're building houses, these are each houses, for example, and you turn the keys over to the owner or whatever, that's it, you're gone. Or if you're in real estate, you're selling. So it's project-based, and they're complete, they're done, you're not going to go back to them. I think not, anyway. But the difficulty with episodic people is the time in between. All this time that you have floating around in between projects. Dangerous time. In the music business, this can be drug time, alcohol time, marriage and divorce time. I hate to get depressing here, but that's where a lot of that happens because there's no other project and you don't know when it's coming. If you're managing people, if you're a manager and you're managing people that you recognize as an episodic person, they're project driven, it's a very good thing to go to them and say at some point, I know you're busy. I know you got a deadline coming because these end, you know. I know that's happening. I tell you what though, I've got a job for you. When you're done with this one, take a week off because these people trash themselves, you know, because they've got a deadline. They throw everything into it, into that project. But when you're done, give me a call. I've got something else for you. Just knowing that. It doesn't, am I right, it feels good? It doesn't matter what the job is. You don't have to get detailed. He's busy, he's got a deadline, he's working, he's at his most productive right now. Don't bug him, just tell him, come see me, you know? And what happens there is the dip won't be deep. When he's done with whatever he's working on, you say goodbye to the people on that team, you know you've got another team waiting. It's a very reassuring feeling. But in today's economy, these gaps in between the bubbles are really long. And they're really, they are long time gaps. And so people are getting into all kinds of, oh my God, what do I do now? When one of the things you can do, like my friend the painter, is to always have a project going on. Something in your life. I don't care if it's working on scrapbooking for your children's future, that they'll have a history of your family, or something that you're working on like that. You're writing your own novel about your life or about your family or whatever, or travels that you've made. Something that is never really finished. It's not going to end. You know these people who say, when you call them up and say, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And they say, I'm working on my house. We're working on the house. You know, they're always working on the house. Am I right? The yard, the garage. I know guys that say, I'm working on my car. Working on my car? How many months are you working on this car? They're like polishing in between the things with a Q-tip. I don't know what they're doing. But it's never done. It's never completed. It's always something to work on, you know? Those people are the ones that are very healthy because they've got something underneath that keeps them going. Find something if you're an episodic person, because when these things end, there's a danger time. This doesn't end in the same way. This, you'll always find something because it's not based on the job or the company or the paycheck. It's based on those things that really are your interest at the top. So you're satisfied, you're kind of scratching your itch. Soul-wise, this way. This person's pretty obvious because they're coming out constantly with something that They can judge themselves. They don't need an Oscar or a Grammy or anything to tell them how they're doing. They know. They have it. If you are this, but you're working in this kind of world, one of the things you can do for yourself is to give yourself little rewards, because they're not going to come that easily in today's world. So you're giving yourself little rewards, and by that I mean maybe a trip, go to Santa Barbara for a weekend or something, or for a day, or you get, it might be something like I'm going to have that chocolate sundae that I've been putting off for a while. I've now lost, here's the goal setter, I've now lost 25 pounds, I'm going to have myself an ice cream, and I'm going to enjoy it, because I haven't been able to have one in the past few months. That's that kind of goal-setting mentality. That's what happens there. Everyone has a way to scratch their itch in their career and in their own values. What is it that means something? Is it really a bigger paycheck? I mean, come on. To some people, and we know that, that's not the problem right now. There's something else going on. And they want to satisfy something in their life cycle, in their working time period on this planet. So this is generally what the career paths look like. So what do you think of these things? Any comments? Yeah.
I think it's very interesting because when we started out in the workforce, a lot of us were stair-step driven because it was go after the fame of the title and then the money.
Right.
But as that age group got older, it was more prevalent to go after the money and the retirement.
Retirement, that's right.
Because name and title didn't mean much
Right.
versus the money that we were looking for.
Exactly. And stability and
And
security.
stability.
We came from a culture of people who went through the Depression too. And, those are big value issues for us. It's, well, yeah, you want to be an artist, but, an artist will starve. Well, I'm here to tell you there are a lot doing very well, artists and writers and so forth. So it's not exactly 100% true that all artists will starve, but we bought into it. So, and we were scared to death to try even being an artist because we were taught that's just for fun. That's not serious work over here. It's really kind of a sad thing. But I think we're coming out of that.
So
I think we are.
on that premise,
As a culture.
in this era of the way the economy is, and everyone is hearing, well, you understand, you're not going to be able to work for the same salary you just came from.
Right.
And you're going to be taking a lesser pay.
Right.
A lot of people are saying, yes, we don't want corporate America. We want to make sure that the next job is going to be a better workplace and surroundings.
So we're investing in other values for ourselves. Maybe more flex time. That to me is critical. How many of you have that kind of a job where you can, or have had, where you are able to work from home? No? Yeah? Great. So for some of us, am I right? This is a biggie. Especially if you have little kids or something like that, and you want to have time at home that you can govern. That didn't exist before, So certainly not in the numbers that it does today. Some people really like showing up 8 o'clock in the morning and leaving when that clock hits 5, they're out, they're gone. And that's their rhythm. I respect that. I totally, but I'm glad we have the choice, Who else had a comment? I thought, yes.
I have a question. This is really helpful because it changes my perspective of things.
Good. Thank you. That's why I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The spiral thing especially, and the episodic, because at first I saw myself as a steady state thing. I started music when I was 3, and so it's always been my goal to make it as a musician, but my pattern was really more of the spiral thing where I went through restaurant jobs and computer jobs, and then I would teach drums and do cover band gigs, and then I reached a point where it was like the day job, it was financially was supporting me, so I thought, well, I don't really need to keep teaching and doing these cover band gigs because they're 4 hours long and I'm getting $50,
Right.
So then it became more of an episodic goal. And when I look at the people I know who have these big touring gigs, some of them are a year and they're leaping around, like you're describing, but some of them have like a 10-year gig. So to me, that looks like it's like a straight line of 25 years of playing and then suddenly success. It's very black and white to me.
Right.
And now I'm saying maybe it's not all that black and white.
It's
a
not
little
that black and white. That's
blurry.
what, my surprise was, the same thing. When I
Mhm.
first heard this, I said, oh gosh, and I just felt so relieved.
Right.
You know, suddenly inside me I thought, that's why I argue with my father. You know, because he's very much this, and I'm much more down in this area, you know. And it was, well, how are you going to make a living? And, well, you know, you can't, you know, how do you, all that. And it was that we were pushed as kids. I understand where it's coming from now that I'm older, and it's a security thing, and they worry for us, and they love us, and they want to see that we survive on the planet and do well. I got it. I got all that. But I also understand the frustration of being in a job and being told I need to go here, 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 and I don't care. It just doesn't do it. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't. A bigger office, a closer parking space with my name on it, I don't care. You know, I'd rather know I can get out of my lot and walk across the parking lot, get some exercise, you know? Yeah. Did you?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I was-
Okay. Yes.
I see myself more as a spiral type thing. I've been a social worker for 40 years,
Okay.
but I have, because I have small children, for lots of reasons, I've jumped into many different areas of social work, which is one of the reasons I got in it.
Right. And it keeps changing.
It does. I mean, I've been
Right.
I was
See,
in-
that's another thing with this.
in
I forgot to
medicine for
mention.
about 14 years, but that was neonatal intensive care, OB,
Right.
cardiac care, rehab, all, and I was in psych for 14 years, and then
Wow.
adoption, and so I'm,
So you resonate to the fact that, and see,
Yeah.
that's event driven when your own industry keeps evolving. And suddenly you have to be sent off to some training class at work or whatever because, you know, hey guys, when we got computer programs, they sent us all to these little, you know, as stuff kept coming, a new program, how to learn Excel, Microsoft Word. I remember those workshops. They did that, thank goodness.
but some of us haven't had those. That's where my struggle is that so much of the industry now
Has moved.
is into computers, and I'm into telephone books and handwritten notes.
Well, you know,
My
I
last job
know,
was
yeah.
that. So
I understand.
like
Fortunately.
trying to learn computers.
Right. And fortunately, there are tremendous resources now, and free, many of them, am I right?
Yeah.
Community-driven and free, and I'm sure in this group, right, there are ways to, I mean, it's fun once we get started, but when you're pressured to have to do it, I know it's a struggle. It's like driving a new car. You know, I really love that concept, but fear. And I'm sure we all are scared to death to put a scratch, a dent, a thing, oh gosh. You
Scared,
know.
afraid of the
So,
unknown, yeah.
we're scared.
Yeah.
And it's our inner critic voice, which by the way is another workshop for another time. I don't know what time, we don't have that much, but I can tell you, inner critic plays into all of this. How many of you feel you have an inner critic? Anybody? Yeah? Good. That's good, it's healthy. Inner critic has two roles. I'll run this down to you really quick because I think it's important for all of us going through so many changes in the workplace and trying to learn new things all the time. Inner critic has two roles. It's not one inner critic, it's two. One of them's job is to do nothing but protect your life from your killing yourself or harming yourself. That's why when you've had 2 chocolate sundaes in one day, it's probably a voice saying, I don't think I need a third one. You know, that's that voice to protect you. It's going to, have you ever, you know, at Halloween when we brought home all those bags of candy and you have kids that do this and they want to eat it all now, and what do we say? You'll get sick, right? That's inner critic voice and trying to rule that part of us that governs your health and welfare. I say listen to that voice. Absolutely. Now we have the second inner critic that comes in, and that one's job, 100%, is to see that you do not make a fool of yourself. So, when you're learning something new, it's jumping up and down all the time saying, oh yeah, you're really going to look stupid doing this thing because you don't know, and oh my God, you know what's going to happen and all that. When I first put my credit card into an ATM machine, I was so panicked that it wasn't going to come back out, you know? I was freaking out. I was holding on to it because I really wanted to go all the way in. That is inner critic voice trying to protect me and my welfare, you know, because that's a serious thing if the card goes in and I'm like, have you ever had that, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So,
The ATM once shredded 5 of our family's checks.
yeah, stuff that, you know what I'm saying? And then you don't want to be made a fool of where you guys are going to laugh at me. I was at Costco yesterday getting gas. Well, my husband usually does this. And so, at Costco. So I didn't know if I had to put my Costco card in first and then the credit card. I didn't know what to do. And there are 20 people in line behind me. So I don't want to look like an idiot, not to mention screw the whole system up for everybody. So I guess I have a thing about credit cards and machines that it's a loss of control. It's relinquishing control over this thing, you know? Yeah, and
You gotta trust it with your cards.
Right, exactly. So it's a very, very scary feeling. Same thing with anything with computers, and frankly, with anything new.
I was resistant to ATMs for probably a year or two. They said, I will go into
We're
the bank. There's no way I'm going to do that.
See, we're slow
Now I'm
adapters.
fighting
There are
with
fast
the
adapters.
computer.
Yes, I understand. So we have to talk to that voice. One of the things I do with my inner critic voice, there's a cure for this stuff, by the way. But you have to practice. You have to practice it. It's to send the inner critic out into another room. Sometimes I send it all the way down the freeway to a whole other part of town. Just imagine that this inner critic person, voice, whatever in you, you can send it away and then bring it back later. But send it away while you're doing your scary thing, whatever that is, including writing, painting, acting, playing your guitar in front of people. Why do we have stage fright and nerves? That's the inner critic jumping up at the most inappropriate time saying, you're not any good. You're not any good. And why are they going to listen to you? Nobody's going to pay attention to you. Fortunately, we have other voices in our head that say, I can do this. The yes, I can kind of voice, you know, that says get up there and try. Fortunately, we have that voice, and it many times outweighs the other one. The trick with the inner critic is you want to bring it back at another time. My husband says 2 days is about as long as he can hold his off. Me, I have to bring it back even sooner, I think, than that. I want to know how I did, so I use it as an editor voice. I know it's going to scold me and tell me how awful I am, so I may as well go ahead and listen to what it can tell me how to do better. So it becomes a little editor voice when you do rewriting, or you do something in the arts. That's why rehearsals are so fabulous, and practice at anything. Do you understand? I hope you're not looking at me like I don't make sense here. Okay, so you want to invite it back. If you don't, it will come in at the most inappropriate time. A job interview is a great time for it to come up. Okay, they're asking you, so what are your best skills, your best qualities? Where have you worked? What did you like about it? All this, and boy, this little voice is going, yeah, right, like they care. They got 30 people in the waiting room. Yeah. You know, this kind of thing, right? So it's being inappropriate because you didn't deal with it before. Good to just, before you go into the interview, you just say to yourself, no interference in this room allowed. And just sail through it as best you can with the positive voices in your head saying, I can do this. They need what I've got. I know it. They're going to know it now. Real tough, you know? And then when you come out, you can talk to your inner critic in the car when it says, yeah, you know what you forgot to say, huh? You know what you forgot to say, right? You know, you didn't tell them that. No, you forgot about that. You weren't even on time. Why weren't you on time? Oh, yeah, right. You know, all those inside the head. I see them as an orchestra of voices, and you are the conductor, okay? I used to see it the other way, that my inner critic voice was my guide and would be on me no matter what. You have control. You are the conductor. You can raise the volume of that voice, and you can lessen the volume of that voice. Mute it. That's a good point, mute. Yes. Oh, I love that mute button. So, yeah, that's a good way to get control over those fears in us. Because where are they from? They're from mom and dad. They're from our teachers, our coaches, people who are friends, uncles, who said, yeah, you'll never make it. Yeah, you know, I was, but you, I don't know. Yeah, all that jazz, you know, that we have in our background, and this is all psychology, and we know, right? But that was then. We're grown-ups. We're qualified. Look at where you are today, spending time learning yet more from all these incredible people. It's amazing. And from each other, from all of us. I'm learning from you, too. So I give myself credit for that. And I have to say, that inner critic, you know where it is today? It's in Hawaii. Because it worked so hard. I packed its little bags this morning and sent it on a plane. It's in Hawaii having a great time because I don't want to hear while I'm talking. Okay, later we'll talk. Later we'll get back. So that's inner critic, and that's a whole other talk. Any other questions or comments about this kind of material? Do you feel like it's helpful? A little bit?
Mhm.
Yeah? Good. Good. I appreciate
Totally.
that. Yeah, because to me, working especially, like I say, with artists who have to show their most vulnerable selves to the world regularly and be critiqued on that, you know? I so admire their courage and their ability to say, here's something I drew. I mean, if it's your kids coming in and mom, dad, hey, look at what I drew, you say, oh, that's great, we'll put it up on the fridge, whatever. That's wonderful. But there comes a time when it's not kid stuff anymore. And yet I hear from artists that they don't feel they have a choice. I asked this one woman who's a graphic designer, taking her big portfolio into a graphics firm in San Francisco, in fact. And she said, she's very introverted, very shy, but she's a great artist, great designer. And I said, why did you do it? She said, I was almost sick in the lobby waiting for my appointment because of the fear. And I said, so what made you do, why didn't you just get up and leave? You know? She said, oh no, I have to do this. I have to do it. So artists really have a place in them that is them. And I respect that. And I want that to be developed, nurtured as much as we can possibly give to them. Who knows if the work is any good? It might not be my taste. It might not be your taste. You know, that they do interior design, that's not your thing. But she may love it, and we don't know. That's why this thing about being on the web and putting all your information on the web and saying, okay, everybody, here I am, you know, letting people know about you, continuing to do that. Yeah, we're going to get rejections. That just happens, and most of it apples and oranges, you know what I'm saying? I love what you do, I love what he does, but you know, I need more what he has. He has one more thing. Fine, doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to work for her and do great. It's just not appropriate here or there or whatever, and this is going to happen with us. Unfortunately, right now, there are more people than there are needs for them in the work field, you know, but I think that's shifting. I don't know if you do feel it, but I do. I think that's shifting. Other positions are coming. More of what you do is coming. And more funding to help fuel that particular area, you know, whether it's from insurance or healthcare, I don't know. But I do have a feeling, and you all can sense it too, am I right or not? Can you feel a little turn from last year to this year that's going upward? Yeah, I can too. Our business has improved just in consulting with songwriters and musicians. And last year, people said gas, rent, food. If it's not one of those, or maybe medical insurance, if it's not one of those categories, I can't afford it. So anything to do with the music business or arts or whatever, they didn't have the, they scared to spend, even if they had the income, scared to let go of it, because we don't know the future. I think today, and this month already, last month, maybe it's springtime, I don't know, but I already do feel another layer of energy coming, and I see more hiring, more people talking about it, which I think is why so many people came to this, because they see it. So between that and finding out what your values are, what you feel good about in your work, like the Myers, how many of you have taken Myers-Briggs? Do you know about the Myers-Briggs test? Yes. Kiersey Bates? If you haven't taken the Myers-Briggs, and it's okay, and you can take these again and again. They're very important for you to know about. Kiersey, K-E-I-R-S-E-Y, is .com. .com. I believe that's right. Okay, Kiersey and the partner was Bates, B-A-T-E-S. If they're still together, I don't know. But they have a little quiz on there. The book, by the way, is fascinating. It's called Please Understand Me. Great book. And they have a quiz in the book, and they have a quiz free online. You can take it. Don't take it too seriously, but when you do take it with work in mind. Okay? It makes a big difference. Because it tells you things like whether you are more extroverted or introverted, which is very important in this way. I've got a couple minutes, I'm going to run it down real fast. If you're extroverted and you're out having a great time, and you have an introverted boss, that can be a conflict. Or someone who's interviewing you, watch out and see which one is which. If you're introverted and have an extroverted boss, it can be a problem. What I mean by that is, let's say you're extroverted, and so you're doing a lot of schmoozing at the coffee pot, and you're in my office talking to me about stuff, and you're in her office, and we're running around a bit. If you have an introverted boss, someone who's in their cubicle or in their office, and they are not getting out and about, they see you as wasting time. See that judgment? See how it can happen? The opposite can happen. If you have an extroverted boss, and you're introverted, you feel I got to be there at 8 or 9, you sit at your desk, you work till lunch, you get up, you go to lunch, you come back, you sit down. If you're an introvert and that's how your pattern is, there's nothing wrong with it. There's a great book called The Introvert Advantage, by the way, for those of you who know someone who's introverted who doesn't see it as an advantage. It is. Can be. Extroverts should read that book too, The Introvert Advantage. These are paperback books, easily found. Thank you, Charlie. But you can see how if you're at your desk and your boss is out running around, they're going to say, "You're not a team player. How come you didn't come to the company soccer thing last week?" And you get judged that way unfairly. So this is the kind of stuff Kiersey will help you out with. Okay. Also talks about whether you are perceiving or judging. I hate the words, but that's the words they gave it. Perceiving and judging is whether you like to work open-ended, meaning you don't really need a deadline, you get it done when you get it done. The judging person has got a checklist and get it done. Okay? You're going to show up, you need to have it done on time, on the day, blah, 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 blah. Those people run the trains in this country, and the planes, and they keep us all working, so we love them. But you have to have another person over here that says, I value something other than the deadline. Two people like that on one team can fight, right? So these are the kinds of things you'll find out in this. So you want to know your own working style, like I was talking about before, whether you like to work outdoors or alone or with a group or a team. You need to know more about your own working style because you also want to know about your coworkers, your boss, and so forth, and their working style. And that way you can find out what it is you're really arguing about. It might not be you just don't like them. There might be a real reason. And it's okay, because you need 4 wheels to make the bus go straight. So you want to have all of these different modalities, right? If you just have everybody be one, it's not going anywhere. The project's not going to go anywhere that way. So yeah, but fighting can be helpful. It can be very good. Yeah?
I have a question. I actually didn't get this question earlier, but I'm glad that you brought up this stuff because I'm more of an introverted person, and as I mentioned before, because you were in the room before as well,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of the people that have had some success in my profession, it's because the amount that they network and the fact that they have the time available to do that, and I don't, and I've chosen to sort of take a new direction, which is to try and do this drum off thing, which requires practicing hours and hours, but not being out late at night.
Okay.
So that would give me a lot of exposure, which inevitably leads to really good gigs, because I know a lot of people who've taken that route.
Okay.
But it keeps me out of that spiral pattern. I'm playing in one band, but we don't gig very often. So it's like, it kind of takes me out of being visible by doing that, by staying in a closet, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm very, you
well,
know.
it has a purpose though.
Yeah.
Being in that closet, that's where you're practicing and you're getting your skill.
Right. But it's
tuned,
it's kind of a 5. It's like the average is 5 years. The people who compete in this, they usually have to compete like
Right.
5 years in a row before they actually win.
I
I still see it as a benefit, but you know what I mean? It's such a long term.
Well, these spirals can be long.
Right.
This is not just short little 2-year, 1-year, whatever, 3-month gigs. This could be, it can be a long thing. It can go a long way. But I don't know, you have to, this is about finding your rhythm too, isn't it?
Mhm.
And each of us, I worked for a law firm one time. Hello, those people were, how many of you have ever worked in law, in the legal field? A case can last how many years? Tons, right? I can't do that. I need quicker reward. I got in there and said, they've been working on this one case, like you said, 5 years or whatever, to do something.
Mhm.
Or you have a time frame. I need to do it before I get too old, or whatever, right?
Right.
Okay, that's that same kind of thing, and I just went, oh, that's not me. You're gonna find where you fit in that. I hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. We never question that. We go into a job and we just take the check and we come up every day, we show up and we don't question it. And I really hope that this will help, this kind of material. There are a lot of resources, you guys. 1:45, we're done, right?
Yep.
Yes, thank you so much for your attention and for listening. I wish you the best.